Hello, everyone. This is recording number 12 for Early Stoic Philosophy, a class on Stoic logic, physics, and ethics. Today, I want to talk about Stoic Cosmopolitanism. One dimension of Stoic Cosmopolitanism that can seem quite confusing is that it does seem to have both a descriptive and a normative side. The Stoics seem to say things like the world is a city, and that seems to be a descriptive claim. That seems to be a claim about how the world is. But they also say things like we should relate to everyone else as a fellow citizen, and that is a normative claim. That is a claim about how we should relate to other people. I want to devote this recording to the question of how those two sides of Stoic cosmopolitanism fit together. Now, that seems important in part because cosmopolitanism has the reputation to be an incredibly ambitious normative view. In modern philosophy, there is even the thought that cosmopolitanism is, as it were, the view that one should found a world state. And a lot of people are quite suspicious of that proposal. They think that it is either impractical or politically dangerous or both. Cosmopolitanism in modern discussions can also invoke attempts to create global institutions and thus something somewhat less radical than a world state. Nevertheless, it is important to see that what the Stoics are up to is quite different. They do not ask us to create a cosmic state or cosmic city. And they are also not asking us to create cosmic or world institutions or global institutions. That doesn't mean that they would necessarily be against that. Like if we had Stoic politicians today, I'm not saying that they would be against global institutions. Just that in the proposal that they make, the normative proposals are not that we should create some institution. So what is going on? I would like to suggest that really the normative dimension of Stoic cosmopolitanism resides in the challenge to appreciate how the world is. And if we were to fully appreciate how the world is, then we would relate to everyone else as belonging to us. And then we would understand and, as it were, feel that the world is a city. So, to talk about that in a bit more detail, here are three closely related facts about how the world is that the Stoics think we come to know if we engage in philosophy as they conceive of philosophy. The first of these facts is that the world genuinely is, as it were, our habitat. So they speak about human beings as having a habitat, as today we might say, like the habitat of the tiger is such and such. Our habitat is the world. And thereby they make the claim that as much as it is true that some of us may live in Athens and others in Sparta or wherever, really and more fundamentally, all of us live in the world and have our home in the world. The world is most fundamentally where we live. They think that that is a kind of an insight about how things are. Second, and related insight, is that the world is a complex organism. The world is a kind of large-scale organism, they think, which is a whole with parts. And we are some of the parts of the world. So really, if we want to understand what we are, part of what we will do is kind of parts whole metaphysics, because we need to understand what kind of part of the whole cosmos we are. And when we do that kind of theorizing, the Stoics think that we will understand that we as human beings do not have the level of self-standingness that maybe sometimes we pride ourselves in. We have a certain degree of self-standingness as reasoners. We are those parts of the cosmos that can move by their own reasoning. We study the Stoic kind of scale of nature and how they differentiate between plants and stones and animals and human beings by kinds of movement. Our kind of movement is to move ourselves by our own reasoning. So we have the level of self-standingness that comes with that kind of movement. But nevertheless, we are integrated parts of a whole. And the third kind of fact about the world that the Stoics would add here now is that given that we are parts of a whole, it is a fact about the world that we do belong together with everyone else. We do belong together with all our fellow parts who are also reasoners, and we also belong together with glaciers and mountains and trees and tigers and so on, simply on account of the fact that all of these things are interrelated parts of a whole. Thus, if we come to appreciate this kind of chain of thoughts, which for the Stoics belong on the one hand to physics, because we are talking about parts and wholes, on the other hand to ethics, or at least to a kind of combination or intersection between ethics and physics, because we are talking about belonging together and living in a home that is the world. Once we actually know these things, the Stoics propose, we appreciate them on the level of those kinds of rational feelings that we discussed last week. And that means that we affectively relate to all other people and also to other parts in the world, of the world and in the world, as in one way or another affiliated with us and belonging together with us. And that really is the mindset of cosmopolitanism. So the norm here is extraordinarily ambitious, but it is not the norm to create a world state, because there is a sense in which the world state is already there. We already live in a common home, a common habitat, and we already belong together. It's just that ordinarily we don't understand that, and we don't appreciate it, and we don't have the affective attitudes that sort of genuinely capture this. So I want to end with a question about this proposal, the question that is quite controversial among scholars. If that is what we should be doing, if that is how we become cosmopolitanists, that we gain this kind of knowledge about the world, which is really ultimately the knowledge in the three disciplines, in logic, physics, and ethics, and then become able to live according to nature and live according to, in another formulation, the law of the universe. If that is what we should be doing, it can seem that cosmopolitanism is a proposal in ethics and not in political philosophy. But at the same time, it can seem that this way of viewing other people and relating to other people and relating to other parts of the world has deep political implications. So I want to leave you with the question of whether we should think of this kind of cosmopolitanism as primarily an ethical theory or political theory, or whether there is a way of saying that really it is both.